So for the fourth versus, today we have the Kinship Self-Reflect Probiotic Moisturizing Sunscreen with SPF 32 against the Kopari Sundaze SPF 30 sunscreen. And I want to tell Carrie that this is her little Beanie Baby toy because it reminded me of My Little Ponies. And I think we've talked about My Little Ponies before. Although when I was little, there's this episode of My Little Ponies, and one of the ponies stepped on a horseshoe and wished it would never rain again. They were all dying of drought. It's very traumatic when you're little. I still remember that. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, I'm getting emotional just thinking about how terrifying it was because they're all dying in the video, and it's like, that's traumatic for a little kid. Okay, anyway, so to recap really quick, we've had the Supergoop Zinc Screen against the First Aid Beauty Weightless Liquid Mineral Sunscreen in the first episode, and the First Aid Beauty 1. And the First Aid Beauty next will be going up against the Versed Guards Up Mineral Sunscreen, who initially went up against the Paula's Choice Resist Weightless Liquid Sunscreen, or Wrinkle Resist Defense. That's what it was. And the winner of this matchup will be going against the My Shell, which took out the Suntegrity 5-in-1 moisturizer. So, okay, so now you are up to speed. So, for the beginning of this one, it's interesting. These are the two products that are very alphabetically close to each other. So, the Kinship and the Kopari. So the first three criteria they all tied on, which is alcohol. They're both free from denatured alcohol. Fragrance. The Kinship has a light vanilla scent to it, which dissipates pretty quickly. However, vanilla is actually a beneficial ingredient, so that's not necessarily a negative. Whereas if it were like a citrus ingredient, which can cause some issues, that would be a negative. But since it has a fragrance ingredient, that's actually good. It doesn't count against them. The Kopari is fragrance-free and has no scent and no fragrance ingredients. And then manufacturing, they're both made in the U.S. So we've got three ties to begin with, and we get to textures. So let me apply the Kinship. Actually, this is what I'm wearing underneath my foundation today. And I will apply a little bit of it to this hand. And it has a light tint to it, a very light tint. However, once you smooth it into skin, it pretty much is invisible. And I applied a huge dollop for my hand. But for the texture, this one just feels more like a moisturizer, really. It spreads pretty easily, and once it soaks in, it sets to a natural finish, which has a slight amount of shine and radiance, but looks pretty natural and not greasy, but not a super matte finish. Whereas the Kopari, I hate this top because it's like you don't really screw it on. You don't, I don't know. You just kind of... whatever. There we go. Okay. The Kopari has a little bit of a thicker texture to it, and it requires a little bit of effort to smooth it into skin. It almost looks fluorescent when I look at it on the camera, but it does feel like a thick lotion, moisturizer type, and it does take a few minutes to fully absorb, which if you're going to apply this in your skincare routine, you're going to want to build in a couple minutes if you're going to use foundation over this to let it soak in. And once it sets, the finish is a bit, just slightly tacky, not super tacky, and it sets to a radiant finish. So the Kopari is just a little bit more radiant in my opinion, but so there we go with the texture. I just find the Kinship texture much easier to work with and much easier to smooth into skin. So there we go. They're both pretty radiant actually finishes when you look at them like that. So then we get to white cast, and the Kinship has a very slight tint to it, but it sets to a finish without a white cast, pretty invisible. I mean, it really doesn't look like any color. And the Kopari, in my opinion, has a moderate white cast, moderately strong white cast. And it does require effort to smooth it into skin. And the more you smooth it into skin, the less and less noticeable that white cast is. However, it's still there. And if you take pictures with it on, it has a bit of a noticeable white cast. So if they would have thrown in a little bit of tint, I think that would have helped. Just because the high amount of zinc in it with no tint to really back it up, just makes the white cast a little bit more noticeable. Okay, then we get to filters, and the Kinship contains 22.4% zinc, and I believe that is the highest in this entire competition. Lincoln's gonna visit. Lincoln, come here. Come here, Lincoln. He loves this one. Lincoln, come here. Oh, he just laid down. He loves this one because of the light vanilla scent. He is big into fragrance in his skincare products. Come here, Lincoln. Lincoln. That's it. That's all you get for today. Sorry. He's very shy. So, for the filter, so the Kinship has the highest amount of zinc, 22%, 22.4, and it offers SPF 32, which is a little bit higher than the other ones. Most of these in this competition are 30. The Kopari has 12% zinc, an SPF 30. Oh, there's Lincoln. Hi, Lincoln. Cameraman just lifted him up. He's in a weird mood today. I don't know. He was digging yesterday in the backyard, like all these tunnels to get to, I don't know, trying to get to Wisconsin or something. He's got all these tunnels going, and I don't know what. Oh, here he meanders in. Come here, Lincoln. Come here. Which one do you like? That's the Kopari, and that's the Kinship. He likes the Kinship. There we go. Good boy, Lincoln. Anyway, poor Lincoln, his first 3 inventions have already been invented. Doggy cologne. That's already been invented. What else did he invent? I can't remember, but chapstick for dogs. That was already taken. I don't know. Anyway, so overall, even though the Kinship doesn't have as much of a white cast, but has more zinc, because they tinted it, and it looks more invisible. So for the filters and protection, I gave Kinship the point there, because it's got a little bit more SPF in it. Not by much. Overall, in general, they probably both might have similar protection, but Kinship has a little bit more going for it there. Then we get to ease of use, and the Kinship really does apply just like a moisturizer, which makes it really nice. It smooths over skin very easily and kind of enjoyable, actually. Doesn't require a lot of effort to apply, no pilling. It works very nicely under foundation, especially since it has a bit more of a radiant finish. If you apply a nice, like, long-wearing foundation over it, it kind of helps combat any dryness you might get from that, especially if you have drier skin. Whereas the Kopari, for ease of use, it's so much heavier. It feels almost like a thick night cream, in my opinion. Certainly will work better for those with dry skin, and they'll absorb it a little bit quickly. If you have oily skin, you probably won't appreciate the emollient texture of this. And the Kinship is slightly emollient as well, but just easier to work in and doesn't require as much finesse to get it to look good, I guess, is the way I'll put that. So, okay, so then we get to beneficial ingredients, and let's talk about the Kinship. So we've got several. Coconut alkanes, aloe, apple fruit extract. Then we've got Lactobacillus Ferment, probiotic, which is great for the skin mantle and healthy skin barrier. Raspberry seed oil, coconut oil, turmeric oil, shea butter, jojoba esters, vitamin E, licorice root, vanilla, and lecithin. So 13 beneficial ingredients, which are mostly very hydrating ingredients. And we'll talk about acneogenic ingredients next, because I know that's probably where some of your mind is going right now, instantly towards that issue. Then we'll get to the Kopari's beneficial ingredients. We've got jojoba seed oil, shea butter, aloe, allantoin, alpha-bisabolol, coconut water, sodium hyaluronate, watermelon seed oil, hibiscus extract, passion flower seed oil, a form of algae, which I didn't even type up because it was like a gazillion letters and it made no sense. I wasn't going to try and pronounce it. Vitamin E, coenzyme A, and then vitamin E. Oh, there's 2 forms of vitamin E. So that also had about 13, but with the 2 types of vitamin E, 14. So the Kopari one, just barely. But if you notice, a lot of those beneficial ingredients I just mentioned are also acneogenic ingredients. So let's talk about that. So Kinship for acneogenic ingredients has cetearyl alcohol, the coconut alkynes, coconut oil, shea butter, vitamin E, butylene glycol, isosteric acid, fungal acne trigger, polyglycerol 3, polyricnoliate. And then sorbitanolate, 9. That's quite a bit for sunscreen. So if that is a main issue, I'm not sure I'd recommend either of these. So let's talk about the Kopari. Got jojoba seed oil, shea butter, glyceryl behenate, which is a fungal acne trigger, glyceryl stearate, watermelon seed oil, and vitamin E. So this has 6. So the Kopari won the acneogenic ingredient category as well. However, I still wouldn't recommend it for very acneogenic skin just because both of these, in my opinion, contain enough ingredients that if I were very acne prone, I think I'd probably pass on both of these. However, if you're not super acne prone, then it might not be as big of an issue, but both of them do contain quite a few ingredients, which I would probably recommend against it. So, okay, in terms of cruelty-free status, both these brands are cruelty-free, so no issues at all with that. In terms of protection and performance, the Kinship was super easy to reapply throughout the day. So if you're outside a lot and you're dedicated to reapplying it, it's very easy to reapply and it lasts nicely. Obviously, probably geared towards dry, normal skin, but dehydrated or oily type skin might appreciate using this in place of a normal moisturizer. So that's the benefit there. If you have oily skin, this will probably be enough for your moisturizer and sunscreen. So we've got that going for it. Then in terms of the Kopari, it has a tendency to last a few hours, especially for me, but then after a few hours, it starts to get a little bit greasy and even to the point where it accentuates a little bit of dry patches. Not super easy to reapply, in my opinion, because of how thick and heavy it feels. I mean, it really feels like a night cream, how a lot of those are really thick and heavy. So it's not fun to reapply, although there's other ways to reapply it versus using the original sunscreen. You can always use a powder that has sunscreen in it, or sometimes some setting mists have sunscreen in them. So I find those are really easy ways to reapply sunscreen coverage throughout the day without having to go back and reapply your original sunscreen. But overall, for protection and for performance, I gave the point to Kinship. Then we get down to price. So the Kinship is 1.75 ounces, 50 milliliters, and it retails for $25, making it 50 cents per milliliter, making it one of the most affordable ones we've seen so far in this series. Then we've got the Kopari, which is 1.7 ounces, 50 milliliters, and retails for $34, making it 68 cents per milliliter. Although, if you're going to pick up either of these, just check for promo codes. I don't know. I could never pay the retail price for anything. Unless I'm in the store and I have to have it then. But that generally never happens. So for price, Kinship got the point there. Then we get to It Factor. And the Kinship really feels like a nice light moisturizer. It works great if you use a nice matte or long-wear foundation over it. Or if you just set it with a nice oil-absorbing powder, it works very nicely. Reapplies super easily, nice ingredients, super affordable, and a nice amount of zinc oxide. Then we get to Kopari, the It Factor. It's a bit thick, nice for some dry skin, but it's got that thick feeling, not easy for reapplication, but it does have lots of beneficial ingredients and moisturizing ingredients as well. But overall, I gave the It Factor point to Kinship because I'm really just loving this sunscreen. So, and the Kopari, it's okay. I like it. I can use it in the winter more when my skin is a bit drier. So, although my hands, I don't know. Here you go. They both look similar in terms of finish, but I think that Kinship does a better job evening out skin tone and things like that. So, overall, including the ties, the Kinship got 11 points. And including the ties of Kopari got 6. So this is also a pretty decided outcome with the Kinship winning pretty easily. And the Kinship will go on against the My Shell in the next round. And it's going to be an interesting one because I really enjoy both of these. So anyway, tomorrow we've got the Acure Radically Rejuvenating Whipped SPF 30 And they're going to go against the Derma E Sun Defense SPF. So be sure to check that out. Anyway, I'm interested in hearing from you guys. If you've had a chance to try either of these or both of these, definitely leave a comment. I love hearing from you. And stay tuned for more tomorrow. Thank you so much.